Hey Richard, a very warm welcome. Pleasure to be talking to you.
Hi, Rob. Likewise.
Yeah. Well, here we are on our trilogy with your journey in Freemasonry. So catch up on the third step you've taken in Freemasonry just recently.
Yes, it's a big one, isn't it? Really, in a lot of ways. So yeah,
A big one and a little bit different is the best way of describing this.
I would say I would agree. I would. It's
Yeah.
definitely. It was my favorite of the three that I've done so far, for sure, and it was different. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, without giving too much away, what we're talking about is the fact that your third step in Freemason was becoming a master mason, what we call a raisin. Right?
Yeah.
So, what was your expectations?
Um, it's quite hard to say really because without wanting to go into detail of what happens in the first and the second sort of rituals. I think I was expecting it to be more of the same. I think I started to get a good understanding of what my participation in it would be, and an appreciation of the amount of work that goes into it from everybody else, which I think I realized during my second. I was like, oh, okay, so it isn't just me that's sort of having to do something here. It's everybody else is having to learn an awful lot and et cetera, et cetera. So I was going in quietly confident in knowing what I had to do, I think is probably fair to say. And I think that again, it's a reflection of the whole of the journey in general. I remember going into the first one and being quite I was excited but quite nervous because I didn't really know what I was going to have to do. And then by the time the third came around, I was feeling confident that I could do whatever was asked of me, and I could do it without making a fool of myself or throwing the whole thing, sort of off key or anything. So yeah.
Right. So obviously it is a little bit different and everything like this, and there was a little bit work for you to do and everything, which you did superbly well, I
Oh,
may
thanks,
add.
Brent.
Yeah. And obviously you've been raised to become a master mason, the third step as we discussed. Yeah.
Yep.
How did you find the ambience of it?
Well, that was very different. I think in a ways this one was, to me anyway, it was probably the sort of the most profound, I think, in terms of experiences out of the three that I've done. And I think it hammers home the messages of the story that you're enacting as part of those rituals and those processes. And it is a different vibe. Each one, I suppose, has a different vibe. The first one is optimistic, perhaps. It's sort of optimistic and eye-opening, revealing. The third is different. It's a little bit more contemplative, maybe a little bit more shocking. I think is probably fair to say within a certain degree. It's yeah, it's very interesting. As soon as I walked in on the third, I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
I find it a bit more reflective on a journey uh,
Yeah,
for
I
me.
think in the third, I think it really neatly, because in the third we reflected over some parts of the journey in the first and the second. So with the conclusion, or maybe the temporary conclusion to that story in the third, you get to see a whole part of that journey. I think maybe for the first time, you see what you've just been through in the third degree.
Hmm. Yeah. So, talking to people who obviously haven't experienced it and everything out there, what would you say to them?
I'd say it's definitely worth doing. It's enjoyable. You do very much feel like you're in safe hands because you're aware that everybody is putting so much effort into doing it right as well. It isn't just you that's on trial here or on show or anything. It's so you're not going to be asked to do anything you don't want to do or anything silly like that. It's an enjoyable evening, which is very interesting, very eye-opening, and will give you a lot of food for thought. I walked home after that ritual. I was offered lifts home, and I said, "No, I want to walk. I want to think about that." Actually, that was yeah, and I did. I was on my walk home. And I was thinking, well, what does that mean? And I wonder if that links up with that, and I wonder what that might mean about this. And yeah,
It is very thought provoking, isn't it? The third degree ceremony. Uh,
very yeah,
the one thing I can say, me speaking to people who were involved in people who attended the meeting, is that everybody went away with a little something, which is always a good thing. Uh,
yeah. And I suppose as well, it's probably worth saying that in each of the rituals in each of the degrees, you have a feeling as a candidate or as a entered apprentice or as a fellow craft that it's all about you. And I think to a certain degree that's wrong. I think it's natural that you would focus on it in that way, but in reality, every time there is a ritual, I think there's a lot of capacity for everybody else within that ceremony to get something out of it too. And it's as you said to me, I think in one of our first conversations about this, that you didn't realize what half of it meant until you saw a ritual from the outside looking in, maybe even a year or so later, looking at that, oh, that's what that was, and I think the thing that you are doing, the story you are enacting or telling as part of these ceremonies and as part of these words, it's not just about you and it isn't just for you, but it's a key part of the whole thing. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. It makes sense that you say people would take something away from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody does take something away from it. Now, obviously, I mentioned that it's the third step. There is other steps that you can take within Freemason, but that should only be done when you're ready.
Yeah.
So at this moment in time, it's about settling in, relaxing, and hopefully enjoying what's ahead of you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to, so far today I've only been to 3 meetings, with my mother lodge, I suppose, with the lodge that I'm a part of, and I'm looking forward to going a bit more regularly into, getting to know everybody there a little bit more as a general participant. And it's even little things like there's so many people, learning their names a bit better and being able to sort of put the name to the face, it will be easier. So I'm looking forward to finding my feet a little bit now. But yeah, as you said, there are many other steps. I've already had a look into some of them, and I'm interested in a few of them. But a lot of the advice that I've been given is to, as you say, take it slow. Find your feet, make those steps when you're ready. So that's what I intend to do.
Very much so. And like I say, now that you're a Master Mason, you're more than welcome to attend every rehearsal that we have, because it puts a different aspect on everything, getting involved in the rehearsals.
Absolutely, and I've already spoken with our next WM to a degree about a potential role in the next year, and I'm very excited about that. And I think having another role within this whole ceremony is going to be really interesting. A great opportunity to gain an extra level of insight into the story that I was just a part of in a different light. So I'm really looking forward to it too. Now,
obviously, one of your pastimes is you do like getting involved, from what I understand, because you do. I've lost the words there. Enactments.
Yes, reenactments. Yeah.
Yes, reenactments. Yeah?
Yes.
So, in all fairness, Freemasonry is a reenactment. It's a story that's reenacted time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just in the same way, I think you can do it wrong or you can do it right. There's an emphasis on you as a player in that play or in that performance or in that ritual or whatever you want to call it, to do your bit, to learn what you've got to learn and to do it properly for whatever purpose it is. And with reenactment, some groups do it very, very well, and some groups don't. They're not willing to put the time in, they're not willing to put the research in, or etc. And I imagine it's the same with Freemasonry. And I think I'm looking forward, from what I've seen and from what in terms of visitors that I've heard have spoken, Saxon Crosses seems to be very good at that part of it, and I'm looking forward to getting more involved in it and doing what I can to do it right. So yeah, but you are right; it's very similar, I think, in a lot of ways.
Very much. I think, from my perspective, it's always nice when somebody new joins us in our rehearsals, because they bring a different perspective to it, or may observe something slightly different that we haven't noticed, which is always a great thing.
Yeah, I have no doubt that it's an environment where you could speak up as well if you've got an idea or something, to a degree. There's a fraternity, there's a fraternal aspect to it as well. Like little hints and everyone's chipping in, and it's nice. I'm looking forward to getting involved in that.
In all honesty, it's a bit like having Shakespeare plays, isn't it? The fact that they're not all done exactly the same way, and somebody says, "Actually, have you thought about doing this?" That's what we always look forward to.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose every player, I suppose, brings their own tone, their own stance to the way something's performed or the way something's said. So yeah, I absolutely, yeah. Every year, I suppose each of those roles potentially is going to rotate, and another light is going to be shed on a different part of the story. So yeah.
Right. So finally, just to end this, obviously there's people out there wanting to join Freemasonry, who are in Freemasonry, who are waiting to go through their third step within Freemasonry, become a Master Mason. What would you say to them?
Don't be nervous. You're in safe hands. Learn your lines and enjoy it. I think the thing that one of the members of the lodge said to me before I went in for that part of the ceremony was, "This is the best one, this is." And I was like, okay, interesting. It was exciting. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite of the three. And it's definitely the one that I think will stick with me the longest. So yeah, enjoy it and be excited for it. There's nothing to be worried about.
The good news on that one, this may be currently your favorite one, but believe me, there's some brilliant ones out there, some very colorful areas, to get involved in.
Yes, so, yeah.
Enjoy that journey, Richard, and thank you.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Rob. Cheers for that.